Okay, hello. I'm my first time in 2021 going live. I didn't make any announcement. I just made a decision at the last minute to do so for my Witchy review. So I'll give it a few minutes. I don't have a huge following, so I don't know who is going to show up for this live, but here I am giving it a whirl. It's more like a test run, too, because this is a new computer. Um, but on a replay, hopefully people will watch this and I'll talk about this book. So I'm really excited about talking about it. It's a very thought-provoking book. There's a lot going on. Where's my camera? Okay, I'm looking up there. Okay. Mm. Forgive the talking in the background. I know my husband's in a meeting, couldn't be helped, but I wanted to do this live. So it looks like I have is it one person here so far? Yeah. All right. Well, hello to the one person who clicked on my live. Thank you. I appreciate it. Uh, I don't know how much longer I can give. I'll give it a couple more minutes before I get too much into the book. Very excited about this book for the last time. And this is just my workspace. This is real life. All right. So I'll give it about 20 more seconds and then I'm gonna just start the video, and I figure it's worthy of replay and you can watch it then. Yeah, I'll give it a couple more minutes. I mean, wet my whistle in the meantime. Mm, okay. All right, I'm going in. Welcome to Witchy Review. I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft-related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today, I'm talking about this book, Magickal Mediumship by Danielle Dion. This is from 2020. It's copyright 2020. It's newer. It's been out. I didn't know about it until I went looking for it. This is one heck of a book. I'm going to just give it away right up front. I would definitely recommend. It's got me really thinking about death and not enough, in a good way, if that makes sense, in a good way. But the book is broken up into 4 parts. So the first part, I just got my notes here. The first part is about mediumship and magic. Part 2 is connecting with the dead. Part 3 is partnering with the dead. And part 4, death comes for us all. Part 4 is my favorite part because it forces you to really think about death and your own death and how you're going to deal with it. So I appreciate that. And not in a way that feels contrived, not in a way that feels unnatural. It's just, she writes this in almost a conversational tone, and it feels like someone's just gently guiding you through the process. So there's a lot covered in this book. I don't want to give it all away because I'm actually saying this is something worthy of adding to your arsenal, to your witchy book collection, because it says partnering with ancestors for healing and spiritual development. So to me, it's part guidebook, part how-to, part a little bit of everything. There was even exercises in here to facilitate some of the things that the author is talking about. The main things that I'll point out to you are what she calls the clair senses, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, cognizance. So those clairs, and breaking down what they actually mean. So just a short description. Basically, clairvoyance is like seeing images, symbols, things like that, right? Clairaudience is more about hearing. Clairsentience is more to feel or sense information. I think a lot of us do that. Probably if you're, and I think she talks about that, if you're someone who considers themselves an empath, that's probably you. And then there's claircognizance, which is the ability to just know. That is something that I definitely have experienced especially whenever I work with my cards, divination, and I'm reaching out to work with ancestors and things like that. It's more like it's like thought forms are just popped into my mind. Um, So that whole section was really informative. Again, a lot of us probably know all this stuff, but it's different the way she kind of explains it, and she gives examples of her own experience, um, and where she stands on this as far as her abilities, in the clairs. um, Let me see. The other section that I really found informative. Um, is in chapter 4, and she's talking about the different parts of a soul. Now, some of us may be familiar with this type of thinking, and about the soul having more than one part: the blood soul, the bone soul, the star soul. And then there's even an exercise that she gives to explore your soul parts. That's worth a read. That's worth checking out alone for that, because it really kind of, I don't know, for me, I like to be challenged to think a little differently about concepts and ideas that I kind of already formed an opinion on. And to hear someone else's I don't know, I find that refreshing, especially if I find it interesting enough to make me kind of re-examine my own ways of doing things and looking at things. So that's just me. Hopefully it works the same for you. The next chapter, chapter 5, she breaks down the different types of ancestor connections. So, full disclosure, when I picked the book up, or when I read about it, I was curious to know how this author was going to approach the concept of ancestors. Was it going to be from like an African, tradition, spirituality type thing? Was it going to be, some extension of that, the Latino version of it, or so forth. But instead, she didn't talk about any of that at all. She broke down the different types of ancestors, and I found that really, really interesting. For instance, blood ancestors, yes, but what about ancestors of nurture? So those who nurtured you, those who took care of you, maybe you were adopted, or maybe you just didn't have access to your family for whatever reason, or you shouldn't have had access to your family if you were, I'm thinking foster children, situations, other family members are raising you, kind of family friend type thing. Um, Ancestors of affinity. So that's the interesting. I'm not going to give too much away because you should really read it. It's a whole thing about it. Ancestors of tradition, ancestors of place, and what she refers to as the mighty dead, which is a concept that was taught to her. And the mighty dead are like those who ascended. So myself, and if you're watching this, if you're someone who is spiritual and you've basically been on this spiritual journey for a number of years, and you felt like you've ascended depending on your spiritual path or your practice. So those people, who are on their journey, and they felt like they've ascended to a certain level of consciousness and life and so forth in the living, and then they pass on, they will be the mighty dead, that sort of thing. And then the forgotten dead, which I want to stop on that one. The forgotten dead was very interesting because it makes you really think about, what about those who passed on and no one's venerated? They have never been venerated, and the lines stop with them. They can actually be of help. They can be of help if you begin to maybe venerate them, if you begin to maybe partner with them and work with them for ways to enhance your magic, and ways to enhance spells or whatever else you're working on, and whatever you're doing in your spiritual journey, they can be included in. And again, these are concepts and things that we know, but sometimes getting a fresh perspective reading something, I think, is super helpful. That's why I read all the time, and I have a bunch of books, and I write things down because I like to come back. And it's good to kind of, you can know everything, but sometimes it's hard to recall it, and reading sometimes makes me recall it and adds a little spice because I learned something new. um Again, I was saying the book is like a how-to. There are times where it feels almost like a how-to. Like if I was wanting to go into the field of doing medium type work, or my mediumship, if I wanted to get into that, she almost gives like a how-to on it. Like there's a section, I don't think I marked it, but like components of a mediumship session. And it's not like scratching surface stuff. Like I think she goes really detailed about how to conduct a session, what she refers as the sitter. So if I'm the medium and you come to me, you would be the sitter, I'm the medium. And she gives a lot of information on like how to interpret gender, for instance, and don't get caught up on sexuality and things like that. That's not necessarily what that means. She expresses that, but like really in when to do like magical timing, when's a good time for this, whether it's the lunar phase, astrological, thinning of the veil, all of that. And, I appreciate the exercises that she includes, again, to kind of shore up everything that you've read. Um, it did give me a fresh approach to thinking about mediumship and partnering with the dead, the forgotten. That's something I definitely plan on. I hadn't been thinking about it, full disclosure, but it's something I know that I will want to work in going forward, because I thought that was very interesting. And the protection, which I'm always going to promote protection, um, on being mindful of working with them, because it can turn into like a vampire type situation of draining energy. So you got to be mindful and, watch that with certain types of protection. Um, which goes into the other section, spiritual hygiene and protection. So she was really thorough in that. Oh my God. Not just like if when you're supposed to do, but like why and why it's necessary. And she gives a lot of helpful tools to use in order to do that. And again, part 4, the last part of the book, I think is a requirement for anybody really. For instance, one of the exercises is writing your own obituary as an act of self-care. And I was like, dang, that's really great. I love that. Um, and really being thorough and taking the time and maybe even sharing it, because that's something maybe you want to be used. Traditionally, people don't usually write their own obituaries, I believe. However, I'm with it. I think that's a interesting concept. I kind of would like my loved one to do it, but again, it's an act of self-care. No one has to see it. It's up to you. But she goes in further into, writing down how you want things to be handled, especially for if you're watching this channel, most likely you're practicing some sort of magical path. So maybe people in your family don't do this as well. And you might have people overriding your wishes if you don't write them down. So she reiterates that in part 4, and I really, really like that because that's important. And then she goes into people who are trans, for instance, trans erasure. If you're trans, there's a lot of family members who won't even dress you how you would normally be dressed intentionally. So that's her stuff. And then the last part is a discussion of what happens after death. Well, when we die, not after, when death, what happens when we die. And I was like, wow, that one got me. Because she was thoughtful enough to not just push any specific agenda. It's definitely not like Wicca-ish at all. There's none of that in here. She doesn't go into any of that sort of stuff, which if she did, that would be fine. But I'm just saying, it's not, if that's something that you were concerned about, because we have a lot of books in the market that are Wicca heavy. And that's cool, because I think you can take from a lot of different things. But sometimes you kind of want to, if you've already stepped out of that and you're buying books, you kind of don't want to hear the same regurgitated information. Or at least I don't anyway. And I don't want to share it here. So I don't try to find books that has the same information you can always find. That's why I look for something a little different. Oh no. Sorry. Somebody's calling me while I'm doing live, and the whole screen just went out. Hopefully you guys can still see me. Anyway, I put it. All right, I got it. Sorry. I was hate doing that and cut myself off and confuse myself. Anyway, yeah, so what happens when you die, that sort of stuff. She goes into a whole discussion. And again, it's not pushing any specific agenda or anything like that. So dig that a lot. She actually referenced, it's almost narrative, because she talks about her own experiences with a loved one who passed on, and how she does have regrets about maybe they should have, as a family, listened and asked questions before this family member passed on, because she could see that, they kind of were just being put through the motions of being kept alive, where maybe they just didn't want to anymore. So again, makes you think that about that sort of stuff. And she even says, hey, don't you just think about it. Maybe push, not push, but maybe, gently push this onto those you love, your family members. Hey, what do you want to happen when you die? How do you want us to handle if you're incapacitated for a length of time? And, it looks bleak as far as you regaining consciousness and so forth, that sort of stuff. What living wills and so forth, all that, but having the discussion with your family as well, your parents, your kids, people in your life. Again, things we know, but it's nice sometimes to be reminded of that, regardless of your age, that's something you need to be concerned about. And again, coming to terms with what you believe. I would take it a step further and write this thing down, and write down your answers to this. It may be your book of shadows, your grimoire, your journal, your magical journal, on how you feel about death. This is something I will be doing afterwards, because I think that's how much it got me. It made me really think about that, and I kind of want to write that out a little bit more, not just keep it up here or just maybe talk about it. I actually want to write it in one of my journals and kind of really explore, because once I start writing, I really explore even more on my whole views on afterlife, and even the path to ancestry, or ancestor, being an ancestor. And she talks about that briefly in the book, as well as some of us don't necessarily believe that, as soon as you die, you're an ancestor. There's a process to that. I'm one of those people who believe that. I don't think it's a process. And a phenomenon that happens actually a lot more often, it happened to me, where if someone in the family passes on, there's usually one person. Usually it can be more than one, depending on how open everybody is, but at least one person will have a dream within days, maybe up to a week or so after they've died. I was the person I know that had that dream within a short period of time after someone in my family died many years ago. And many years later, when we had someone younger pass in our family, and my immediate family here, my husband, kids, and all that sort of stuff, in our immediate family, my daughter had the dream. And the dream is basically, doesn't really matter all the details. Basically, it feels like in real time. That's the general consensus. The person is contacting you, and they are saying hello. They come in, they usually where you physically live, or some location that's in real life. Usually they want to visit. It feels very much like a visit. And then they say goodbye. Now in the dream, it feels like, okay, goodbye. Some say I'll see you again. It's usually a thing of, they're letting you know this is a big goodbye. It's kind of a dramatic goodbye for the most part. Like, all right, like, I'm out. It was nice seeing you this last time, that type of thing. I'm making fun, but it's a little more deeper than that. But anyway, I'm trying to get comfortable here. Yeah. So those types of dreams, I had that dream and my daughter had it. So I thought it was very interesting, because I know that she still is coming into everything as far as spirituality. She's in her 20s. She's open, but she's not anywhere where I would prefer her to be. But it's her journey, so I can't really force it. But anyway, they talk about that in this book, and this is a very common thing. So if it happened to you or someone in your family, it's a thing that happens very often. Okay, so there's that. And then one of the most touching things, and I actually got a little teary-eyed reading this section, was how to care for the dead in your home. So obviously state laws, county laws, city laws, all that sort of stuff will matter, but it's possible to have the dead in your home, meaning instead of in hospice or someplace else, they die at home. And she talks about how to prepare their body. It's a very gentle guide on walking through the process. There's even a blessing over the body, not the spirit, the body, which I thought was beautiful. Yeah, the blessing of the body. It's a whole page of information here. And I was like, when I read this, I was like, dang, like this is so thorough. Like how to wash the body, what to use to wash the body. Like, you can consecrate a body wash, that sort of thing. Using certain oils on the skin of, the person, and then care for the caregivers and the grieving, like how to help with them using certain herbal preparations and things like that. Teas that you can use, flower essences for bereavement. Like she really went in. This book is it blew me away because the cover. It's not super duper long. I read this in like 2 days. It's like 200 and something pages. I thought, I mean, I don't know. I don't go in with a negative point of view when I read these books, but I really did think it was probably going to be a little lighter. um, I don't know, but it was a lot deeper. Don't let the pretty cover and the blue fool you. This is a very thought out, thought provoking book. And I can't, like, I think this is, like I said, you need to have this in your witchy arsenal, even if you're not identifying yourself as a medium or even having those abilities. Um, I think this will make you think twice whether or not you have those abilities. But anyway, so overall about the book, I think it's a gentle guide on an array of topics around death. Um, it's informative, and I think it's definitely worthy of being again added to your witchy library. So this is my review of this book. And I see I don't have very many people on, but if anybody has any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer them if you're in a position to ask a question. If not, and this is on a replay, please ask questions in the comments if you were curious about anything that I read before you bought the book. If you wanted to know something, I'll be happy to answer questions in the comments about it. I'm trying to get this water where I can. I made this part of my whole New Year goals to drink more water, be a little bit more healthier, and I'm actively doing it. So if you see me drinking this water, this is me really, really giving it a good, not just a good try, but actually, putting the action behind the intent. So yeah, that's really all I had on the book, though. The Forgotten Dead. I'm looking forward to something simple. I was thinking is like writing out a petition, explaining, hey, this is I'd like to do XYZ. Petition them their help. Or before I even petition their help, I probably just petition, hey, the forgotten, find some sort of word to address them, and maybe, set up some sort of, pathway that I can work with them. Obviously, I would be ultra protected. This is something I would not come into lightly or on the fly or just see approach. It would be something where I would not most likely, I know I'm going to come in with certain oils already on my body, cleansing the space, making sure there's traffic of family coming in, so it's contained. I might even do it outside. I don't know if I'll do it in my house. I don't know. So I shall see about that. But that's something I'm looking forward to forging some sort of connection with. I'll see how that goes. And of course I'll be happy to share, let you know about that. But yeah, it went so much further, the book, than just talking about ancestors and how to venerate them. And yeah, she talks about the basic stuff. I kind of skipped over that because a lot of people know how to give an offering, or if you don't know, she talks about it, the type of offerings to do, what to do with the offerings, what to do with the supplies and things that you use, blah, blah, blah. She talks about that. So it's a lot of the basic things that a lot of us probably already know or have quick access to finding the answers about, but like a lot more to really, like, for spiritual development. To me, this is spiritual development type work. This is beyond just, not to minimize it, but just witchcraft. To me, it's your overall views on everything, because death is very much a part of life. And if you're open to having that discussion with yourself, if you're open to thinking about this beyond what you've been told, if you kind of want to really open yourself up and kind of go a little bit further and maybe be led a little bit more into the process, which she goes into spirit guides as well, sometimes being the go-between those who've passed on and yourself, because not everybody just, it goes straight to the dead. Sometimes there's a middle person, the spirit guide, um, who's working, in between and helping you understand the messages and deliver messages. And I just want to point something out about this book. This is, for me, I don't plan on going into the business of practicing as a medium at this time. However, if you were, I did say that, but I do think this would be great to add as a way to kind of just have a basic understand, actually a little bit more than basic understanding. Um, just my thoughts on that. So yeah, I just, my witchy reviews are not very long, but I thought I'd take a gamble and do the live at the same time. So that's what I'm doing. Um, but yeah, I'll go ahead and end it here, I think. And I think I'll try again next Friday. I'll make a little bit more of a fanfare about it next Friday, so maybe some other people can actually join in. But this was fun. I was curious to know how I would handle doing live with something like this, but I have my notes. I feel like I delivered to an audience of maybe two, but that's okay. It's all right. I feel good about it. But yeah, I'm going to end it here. Yeah, I am. I'm going to end it here. So thank you again for watching. This is Mika, Leap Taken. Please still like, subscribe, share. And again, if you're subscribed to this channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Running off at the mouth of me water. But I do really appreciate it. Thank you very much. My little channel's growing and I have a lot of things planned. So the more, the better. Hopefully more people can be inspired and we can kind of have like a share experience. It's not always just me telling everybody stuff. I'm receptive to hearing what others are doing as well. So thanks again for watching. All right, I'll end it here. Bye-bye.